These are the top 30 COD pros of all time according to the numbers. Hopping right into it, let's start off with our honorable mentions, the ones that just barely missed out on the top 30. We have Nameless, Slacked, Nadeshot, Hook, and Dashy. Those 5 players just missed out on making the top 30. For guys like Nadeshot, Slacked, Nameless, they actually fell out of the top 30 in recent years, and guys like Hook and Dashy still have a chance to put their way in there. But let's get started with our top 30, and number 30 is Proofy. Proofy is a 6-time winner, as well as he won across 4 different games, and not to mention he is an X Games gold medalist. And then right ahead of him at 29 is Rambo. Similar to Proofy, Rambo has won across 4 different games, but he has 8 major wins. Coming into 28, a newer guy on the scene, we have Hydra. Hydra has 4 wins already in his short career, as well as one of those being a COD Champs ring, as well as he also has 3 MVPs. At number 27, we have Zuma. With 7 major wins, 1 MVP, and winning across 5 different games, Zuma still finds himself in the top 30. Coming in at number 26, we have Envoy. Envoy has 5 major wins, he is a world champion, and he's won across 3 different games. And then just barely ahead of him, we have Enable. The Nub has 9 wins and has won across 4 different games in his career. As well as Enable is one of the best players of all time to not win a ring, in my opinion. And if you're interested to know how I calculated all this, just wait till the end of the video. But at number 24, we have Shotzzy. Shotzzy, another player with really high potential to move up in this list, already having 5 major wins, 1 MVP, and 1 ring. And then just slightly ahead of him, we have Parasite. 9 major wins, a world championship, and winning across 4 different games gets Haggy that number 23 spot. And then at number 22, a player that has jumped up a ton this past season is Priesta. Priesta has moved up to 9 major wins, as well as one of those being a COD Champs ring. He's also won across 5 different games, which is really good and shows his longevity, and he's the winningest player in CDL history. Just to clarify, that's CDL history, not Call of Duty history, obviously. He's just the winningest player in the CDL era. But at number 21, we have Merc. Many of you new fans might know Merc for his casting career, but Merc is one of the top players of all time. With 12 major wins and winning across 5 different titles, he was early on one of the GOATs of COD. At number 20, we have the youngest COD Champs winner of all time in Attach. 8 major wins, one of those being a world championship, as I said, as well as winning across 5 different games. Attach is a player that has been around for a very long time and still finds himself in the top 30. But now we move into number 19, and that is Gunless. Gunless has 6 major wins, but what really pushes him up on the board is his 4 MVPs. Not to mention, he's won across 4 different Call of Duty games and was one of the best players in World War II and Infinite Warfare. But just ahead of Gunless, another OG of the Call of Duty scene, we have Big Timer. Big T comes in at number 18 with 9 wins, being a top player in Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 1, and Modern Warfare 3, as well as winning across 4 different COD titles. And at number 17, we have Apathy. Apathy won across 4 COD titles and found himself with 7 major wins, 2 of those being COD Champs rings. And just ahead of Apathy at number 16, another current player in Arcides. Alec has 9 major wins, 2 of those being COD Champs rings, and he also has won across 4 different games. You'll know how good Arcides has been in recent years, especially in the CDL era, and I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing him pick back up his game heading into Modern Warfare 3. But now we get into our top 15, and at 15 we have John. John is another player that many CDL era fans might not know just how dominant he used to be. John has been around for a very long time, having won across 6 different Call of Duty titles and finding himself get 2 MVPs. Not to mention his 8 major wins, with one of those being a world championship. And just ahead of John, another one of the early on Call of Duty pros, we have TP. TP ended his career with 16 major wins and one of those being a world championship, as well as he won across 3 different games and was one of the members of the Complexity Dynasty. Number 13, another player who found himself moving up the leaderboards in recent years, we have Kenny. Kenny has 8 major wins, one of those obviously being a world championship, but what really pushes him up is his 5 MVPs in his career, which according to my research is the most out of any Call of Duty pro. And not to mention, Kenny has won across 4 different games. But just ahead of Kenny, one of his old teammates, it's Slasher. Slasher has 9 major wins, 1 ring, 1 MVP, and has won across 6 Call of Duty games, just showing his longevity and how good he has been in the league for so long. And at number 11, just missing out on the top 10, we have Celium. MC in his short career already has 7 major wins, obviously 1 being a world championship. He has 3 MVPs and has been a top 5 player in the last 4 years of the game. Celium is another one of those guys who I think for sure is going to end up in the top 10. But now we finally get into our top 10 Call of Duty pros of all time according to the numbers. And at number 10, we have none other than JCap. JCap has 10 wins in his career, 2 of those being COD Champs rings, and has won across 6 different Call of Duty titles. At number 9, one of the best players in the game currently is Abizi. Abizi. Abizi has 9 major wins, 2 rings, 1 MVP, and has been a top player in Modern Warfare, Cold War, and Modern Warfare 2, as well as has a win in 4 separate games. And the other half of the Tiny Terrors is at number 8, we have Simp. Simp having all the same accolades as Abizi, except he has 3 MVPs to Abizi's 1. But at number 7, we have a player who has jumped up the most on this list from when I last made it after Call of Duty Cold War, and that is Octane. Octane, having just retired, finds himself at number 7 all-time according to the numbers, with 10 major wins, a ring, 4 MVPs, a top player in many of those games, as well as winning in 6 different titles. Big shout out to Octane and congratulations on his retirement. I can't wait to see all the content he puts out, and finding himself at number 7 by the numbers in Call of Duty history is an incredible feat. At number 6, we have none other than the greatest villain in Call of Duty history. It is Paddy P. Aches. 17 wins in his career, 2 of those being world championships, not to mention him being a top player in MW2, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, and COD Ghost, and won across 4 different titles. But now we get into the top 5 Call of Duty players of all time according to numbers. I think numbers or not, these are the top 5 undoubtable players as of right now. And at number 5, it is Clayster. Clay has 19 wins, 3 rings, an MVP, and won across 6 different games. He's the oldest current player in the Call of Duty League and has been in the esport for so long. I'm glad to see him still kicking it and can't wait to see him play again next year at MW3. But this guy's had a legendary career and is one of the 3-ring GOATs. But at number 4, just ahead of Clayster, is Formal. Formal has 23 major wins, a COD Champs ring, 4 MVPs, and he was a top player in a bunch of different titles, as well as being arguably the highest peak player of all time in Call of Duty history with his Champs performance at Infinite Warfare. And not to mention, he won across 6 different COD titles, so a lot of longevity. But then we get into our top 3 COD pros, and like I said with the top 5, I think this top 3 is undoubtedly the top 3 in my mind. Number 3 is Karma. With 24 major wins, another one of the 3-ring GOATs, 3 MVPs, and a winner in 6 different COD titles, Karma has cemented himself as one of the greatest players of all time, and I think it will stay that way. But now we're down to our final 2 spots, and we all know those final 2 are Crim and Scump, but in what order do the numbers have them? And at number 2, it is the King Scump. 30 major wins, which is the second most of any player, 1 ring, which is really what holds him back, but also only 1 MVP that I was able to find, 1 official MVP, but he was a top player in 7 different games, which was the most out of any player, as well as he won across 10 different Call of Duty titles, which is also the most out of any player in COD history. Another player we saw retire in this past season of Modern Warfare 2, gonna miss seeing Scump play, but being number 2 all time according to numbers, I'm sure even number 1 on many people's personal list. Scump, a legacy, the biggest face in the game, has done so much for the esport. And then obviously at number 1, it is none other than Crimsix. The most wins in COD history at 37, 3 rings, tied for the most wins in that department, 2 MVPs, and 1 across 8 different games. Being the winningest player in Call of Duty history, it makes sense that Crimbot finds himself as the number 1 player according to the numbers. But now that we've established a top 10, in case you're still interested and here at this point in the video, I'm going to give you a quick breakdown on how the numbers were used to calculate this. So there were 5 categories used to decide these numbers. The first one obviously being major wins, the second one being COD Champs rings, number 3 is MVPs, number 4 is being a top player in each game, and number 5 is how many games they won in. These categories I felt encompass not only, how winning and good you were as a team player, but also how good you were individually and your longevity, which I feel is the best way to overall encompass how good a player is. But for each category, players were ranked from, most to least. So in wins, obviously you had like Crimsix, Scump, Karma, listed all the way down to the bottom. And then in rings, you have the people with 3, the people with 2, the people with 1, so on and so forth. So it was ranked by most to least. And then they got points according to how they were ranked. So when it came to major wins, Crimsix was number 1 with 15 points. Scump was number 2 with 14 points. And then it went all the way down to the players who only had 4 major wins with 1 point. For COD Champs rings, the guys with 3 got 9 points, the guys with 2 got 6 points, and the guys with 1 got 3 points. So as you can see, a ring I kind of valued as 3 times as much as a major. When it came to figuring out the best players per game, obviously that can be subjective. So I did a ton of research scrolling through Reddit threads, looking at articles, looking at pretty much the history of all of Call of Duty dating back to Modern Warfare 2, the original one in 2009, and I kind of came to a consensus for each game who were the top 5-ish players for each game, each COD title. This took a lot of time and research to figure this out in a way that I felt was fair, and definitely was something that was super hard to do, but I didn't just go based off my opinion. I didn't just go based off one post or two posts. I read so many different threads and posts and articles to figure out these top players, so I do feel they were well encompassed. But that's a basic breakdown as to how I did it. I can put on screen here kind of the top 10 guys and how many points they ended up with, and you can sort of see the breakdown of who the top guys were and how many points they ended up with after my rating. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you're interested in more CDL content, make sure to sub to the channel. This is a super fun video that I kind of want to do maybe every year or two, just to update and see how it adjusts based on how current players are playing. And obviously this is going to be subject to change, right? Next year in MW3, we could see Simper or BZ win another world championship, or both of them because they're on the same team, and find them moving themselves up the ranking. But as of right now, this is what the top 30 COD pros by the numbers looks like. And also, this is not my personal list. Like I said, this is by the numbers. This had no influence or my opinion on it. I literally use my point ranking system and statistics and numbers from history to figure this out. But thank you all so much for watching. Like I said, sub to the channel for more CDL content. Hopefully I will see you all in the next video.